Welcome to Helicopter Training Videos. In this video we're going to continue the series looking at the new ACS changes for the helicopter side of things, and we're going to focus on the big changes to the instrument ACS. Now, if this is the first time you've looked at these videos, I highly recommend you go first watch the general ACS changes video we did. It covers the history, the goals, the new task structure and coding system, the required elements, the ACS document organization, including what they did with the special emphasis areas, new technologies and updated references, additional rating tables, etc., and some tips for students. So go check that out. In this video, we're going to cover the changes such as the approach types, the DME arc, attitude, instrument flying, MIST versus VDP, the judgment assessment matrix, the SRM type tasks, and looking at how the task titles have changed and been reordered. And of course, more information with links. So first of all, let's look at the approach type changes. In the old PTS, under the aircraft and equipment requirements, it said you must be able to fly at least two of the following non-precision approaches, and it lists VORs, NDBs, GPS localizer, etc. And then there's a note further down that says you can actually use an LPV for a non-precision approach under the PTS, as long as its decision altitude is at least 300 feet above the ground. Also in the old PTS, it said that you must utilize two different types of navigation aid. So you're not allowed to do two GPS non-precision approaches or two VOR non-precision approaches. Due to these restrictions, a typical PTS-based check ride would be a precision approach like an ILS or maybe an LPV if its decision altitude was less than 300, and then two non-precision approaches, which could be perhaps a GPS LP or LNAV, and then a VOR or a localizer, and maybe if you're lucky you would have something like a SDF or an LDA nearby. Under the ACS now, it just says it needs to be two different non-precision approaches, not two different types, not two different navigation aids. It also says that the advisory vertical guidance is okay to use, so it defines a non-precision approach, a standard instrument approach procedure to a published MDA, measurement minimum descent altitude, without approved vertical guidance, and gone away as any text about using an LPV if its decision altitude was above 300. So I don't think you can use an LPV in any situation for a non-precision approach under the new ACS guidance. Interestingly, the CFII, or the Flight Instructor Instrument helicopter, was not updated to ACS, but the PTS was updated and it's going to be effective the same date, May 31st, 2024. And in that, it updated the references and abbreviations and acronyms, some changes to weather products, but it also had the similar changes that we're reading here. So it's using the same guidance in terms of what type of approaches you can use for the II ride as well. The FAA also updated the CFII PTS to change all references to cockpit to the new updated flight deck, but there's no flight deck management task as there is in the ACS for the other ratings, private and commercial. There's actually no flight deck management for the instrument ACS either, so you don't get that task that could cause a potential extra task fail if you had issues with SRM, CRM, etc. So here we can see the new ACS definition of a precision approach, and again there's no mention about an LPV having to have a decision altitude below 300, and again the CFII PTS has similar wording now. So for an ACS-based instrument check ride, I feel this means that the evaluator could select, for example, one LPV to be the precision approach with no restriction on its decision height being above or below 300, and then two different RNAV non-precision approaches, so maybe an LNAV and an LP, or maybe even two LNAVs, just different ones. I suspect though that if a VOR or another ground-based nav aid is available, the evaluator will probably still select that for a non-precision approach, or for maybe for the ILS for the precision approach, just to make sure that pilots are still capable of using ground-based equipment and approaches. I think that's a good idea. I think that's an important skill in case of GPS outages. That's why we have the minimum operating network, or the MON, VOR, and ILS stuff going on still. But to me, it also seems that if you have an aircraft that's only equipped to receive GPS signals, no ground-based navigation, that could be legal to fly a check ride using that if you have the appropriate RNAV approaches nearby to fulfill the requirements. Under Appendix 3 also talks about the DME arc. It basically says now it has to be charted. You can't make up your own DME arc, and it must be available, but then also says including use of RNAV substitution techniques. So I think this is kind of a little bit of a gray area, but I kind of feel like this is saying that if you have a charted arc and you're able to fly it with an RNAV substitution or GPS overlay, that still makes it available even if the VOR is down for maintenance, for example. Here's an excerpt from the PTS that's talking about the emphasis on attitude instrument flying. And in the old PTS, it said that you would be evaluated on your ability to fly either using the primary and supporting or the control and performance concept method. Under the new ACS, that has been removed. As long as you're flying to the ACS numbers, the examiner is not going to have to see that you've used one of these methods. But I will tell you that under the CFII practical test standard updates, it did not change this requirement to actually teach these. So you still need to know these if you're going to go all the way through to CFII. Here we're going to talk now about the change to the missed approach versus a visual descent point, or VDP. In the old PTS, it made it clear that you were to stay at the MDA once you get down there within 100 feet above it, all the way to the missed approach point. The new ACS now gives the option to continue to either the missed approach point or the VDP, or visual descent point. So I think this is obviously needs to be pre-briefed with the evaluator about how far you're going, whether you're going to go to the missed approach point and go missed, or whether you're going to go to the VDP and then start a descent for landing. The way I like to do it is I will tell the people I'm flying with, if they're under the hood, I'll be your eyes here. I'll tell you what you can see. So prior to the VDP or missed approach point, I'll say something like, I can see the runway, or I can see the approach lights, or I'll stay silent if I'm following the scenario that I can't see anything. And then we'll let the student decide what happens at either the VDP or the missed approach point based on what I'm telling them we can see in this simulated environment. To be clear though, do not start flying the missed or descend to land at the VDP unless you've already prearranged this with the evaluator. In the old PTS appendix, we used to have this judgment assessment matrix, which has some important considerations, but I could never really work out which way up this was supposed to be. Now that has been removed, and all of those elements have been incorporated into the risk management elements throughout the tasks. The new CFII PTS update also removed this matrix, but didn't add risk management sections to each task, so they haven't really absorbed that into the PTS there. Also, there were these SRM, single pilot resource management, kind of like tasks that used to be in the old PTS. ADM, risk management, task management, situation awareness, control flight into terrain, and automation management. Those, again, are important considerations, but they were what was described as PTS bloat. That was all this extra stuff that was being added to the start. And those pieces have been taken out and, as I said, reinserted kind of into the appropriate risk management sections of each task. I put a little star there by the CFIT, or control flight into terrain. It had a little link there. When you click on that link, it goes to a page not found. Another thing about control flight into terrain, as dangerous as it is, there's no mention of CFIT or controlled flight in any of the instrument ACS. Oh, and the CFII PTS also removed these tasks. Okay, so here we're going to go through the changes to the task titles, orders, if any have been added or removed. We're not going to go through the full details of each task. You're going to need to, just like you would do with the PTS, you're going to get the book and you're going to read through each task line by line, all the pieces in there, especially the new risk management elements. But first of all, let's just talk about the task titles and order that have changed. For the first area of operation, pre-flight preparation, there's no changes at all. Then we look at area of operation 2, pre-flight procedures. You can see that there's some minor changes to the names. Task B was switched from aircraft flight instruments to helicopter flight instruments. Strangely, Task A was still left as aircraft systems rather than helicopter systems. And then Task C, they switched from cockpit to flight deck. That seems to be a universal change across all the standards right now, is a cockpit is now a flight deck. Under the air traffic control clearances and procedures, area of operation 3, they reworded Task A, so instead of air traffic control clearances, it's now compliance with air traffic control clearances. And then they removed Task B from the PTS, which was compliance with departure, en route, and arrival procedures and clearances. This content still exists in the ACS. It's mostly been absorbed into Task A in a later area of operation called navigation systems. Under area of operation 4, flight by reference to instruments, the old PTS had this, I never really understood why they did this. They had all these abbreviations under there you can see IA, IH, etc. That stands for instrument airplane, instrument helicopter, powered lift, added airplane rating, added helicopter rating. PLA was powered lift add-on, and PC was instrument proficiency check. Why they put those in there like that, I have no idea. But anyway, they've removed those and now it's just instrument flight. Under the navigation systems, you can see the new task, which is departure, en route, and arrival operations. And like I said earlier, that came from an earlier section, which was ATC clearances and procedures. Here, under instrument approach procedures, at the very top here, task A and B, they removed the abbreviations MPA and PA. Those initialisms are not used anywhere in the instrument ACS as far as I can tell. They also removed the circling approach, task D. Well, that makes sense because that was an airplane-only maneuver, and the old PTS was airplane and helicopter. This new ACS is just helicopter, so they pulled that out. They also clarified, or simplified rather, task D's title, which is landing from an instrument approach. Under emergency operations, area operation number 7, they took out the airplane multi-engine task B and C, and they inserted a new task, instrument approach and landing with inoperative engines simulated for multi-engine helicopters. Under post-flight procedures, no changes. Alright, so that's just the big changes. Like I said, you really need to get into these ACS. You should have a copy, just like you would have for the old PTS. You should have a copy and be going through this before your check ride. Make sure you go through every line. Now, as I said in other videos on the ACS, this is also preparation for your knowledge test as well. It's like a one-stop shop for knowledge test and check ride prep. Here I got some more information for you. If you want to, you can go to the full ACS helicopter update playlist, as well as the general helicopter ACS video I was talking about. I've also got links in the description here for you to go buy these paper copies. If you do that, there are Amazon affiliate links. It costs nothing extra to you, but it helps support helicopter train videos. And again, if you find anything, something that we've missed, something that's worth mentioning, please let us know in the comments. For more videos on the helicopter ACS, check out our full helicopter ACS playlist. For other helicopter train videos, check out our helicopter maneuvers guide, or perhaps you want to follow along with a student in the cockpit from day one to check ride with our full flight lesson series. And if you haven't already, please click subscribe to get all the latest videos and help promote the channel. And finally, for more information on helicopter train videos, including articles, resources, quizzes and more, and learn how you can support this volunteer project, check out our website, helicoptertrainvideos.com. Thanks for watching.